Welcome back to day 4 of the Austin Sew Along. Today is all about interfacing. This can be an overwhelming topic for some, but hopefully today's lesson clarifies it a bit. We'll be discussing how to choose an interfacing, where to apply it, and how to apply it. Interfacing is a layer of fabric used on the inside of a garment to reinforce or add rigidity to the area of application. Often you'll find interfacing on places like collars, collar stands, cuffs, button bands, things like that. This adds strength to these higher stress areas and adds a bit of body as well. For the Austin, we'll be interfacing the button bands. Interfacing comes in 2 application types, fusible and sew-in. Fusible interfacing is dotted with small spots of glue that, with heat, adhere it to the fabric. It's very common in garments and what we use when making the Austin. Sew-in interfacing, like its name suggests, needs to be sewn into the garment. Interfacing comes in many weaves as well as weights. For the Austin, we recommend using a woven interfacing that is close in weight or slightly lighter than the drape of your fabric. You want the drape of the interfacing to be similar to that of your fabric. That way you aren't affecting the way the final garment acts or hangs. So here we have 2 weights of interfacing. This is a lightweight woven interfacing. You can see the drape is super nice. And this is a medium weight bonded interfacing. It's basically it's stiffer than a piece of paper. So here are the 2 applied to a piece of lightweight cotton. You can see how this just adds a bit of body, but the fabric still drapes and moves. Whereas the bonded interfacing, all it did was just get stiffer. Cutting your interfacing is very similar to cutting your fabric. In the case of woven and tricot, like we're using here, there is a grain line and you want to make sure you adhere to it so that it isn't fighting the grain of your fabric. Again, this is a lightweight fusible interfacing that I purchased from Jenny at Workroom Social. She sells really great stuff that I highly recommend. So you'll notice this interfacing is quite wide. This is a 54 width fusible interfacing. If you're buying it at like a Joann Fabrics or something, it'll probably be 22 to 25 inches wide, and that is how we have our cutting layouts. So, since interfacing is quite thin, I do like to cut mine using a rotary cutter. And I also break my own rule of not cutting around a pattern piece. It can be really difficult to trace onto lighter weight interfacing, so this has me avoid it and get an accurate piece. Now, if your interfacing doesn't have a clear selve edge like fabric, you'd be using the non-cut edge as your selve edge. Mine has a pretty good looking selve edge, but some of them is really hard to tell. So it's just the edge that was not cut to give you your yardage. Here we have piece 12. This is the skirt button band interfacing. We're going to need 4 of these. Now, since I have my interfacing doubled, we'll just be cutting it twice, and that will give me 4. I also am using the length for view B. So we're just going to weight that down. Grab our rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut through everything at once. You can use a ruler with this if you like. Then here at the bottom, I'm going to cut across size 12. Cut across the top. And back down the other side. Right, I'm just going to snip into our notches. And remove those pieces. Now the other thing you can do, since we are just cutting rectangles, you can lay your ruler out and just trim a nice straight line. Then we're going to measure how wide the band is. So it is 2 3/4 inches wide. So what we're going to do, align our rulers and cut across 2 3/4 inches away from the line you just cut. Now, as we did with the bias facings, we're just going to square off one end, lay our pattern piece over top, and trim. Snip our notches. And that is a super easy way to get really straight interfacing pieces. So that was for the skirt. So now we still have pieces 10 and 11 to cut, and we're going to need 2 of each. So I'm going to use that same technique for the bodice fusible. Put this here to weight down my fusible so it doesn't move around. I'm going to trim my straight line across the bottom. Now here we have piece 10. And I'm just going to slice across my size. Then again for the back. Then you're going to need to mark those 2 notches. And that is how we cut our interfacing. Now I'm going to show you how I apply it. Okay, so here we have our back bodice, and this is the side seam. This is the part that's going to get fused. So we're just going to lay our piece of fusible interfacing down on it. I'm going to cover it with a cloth. You'll notice I have a piece of muslin underneath because I don't want the glue to get stuck to my ironing board or to come through to my iron, so that's why I'm putting it on top. Gently lay that over top, and then you're just going to use your iron to press to cause the glue to melt to the fabric. And now your specific interfacing will come with instructions on the best practices for that interfacing. For mine, I just press down. I have it on all the way hot, and I'm just pressing down for a few seconds here. I'm not using steam. I don't need that for my fusible. Then pick up your iron and press it back down. Don't slide it around because that can slide your fusible. And I got the whole thing. So now you can see my fusible is fused to my fabric. So you just need to repeat this for the 2 fronts, the 2 backs, and the side seams of all the skirt pieces. All right, so that is it for today. Our Austins are fused and we're ready to start sewing. I hope that answered your Austin-related fusible interfacing questions, and if not, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel via the links below to make sure you don't miss any of our sewing lessons, and get ready because in our next video lesson, we get to start sewing. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.